Hey everyone, welcome to Park Valley Church's Town Hall with Chief Newsham, which I said correctly right there.
You did.
He's just hanging out with us today, and we're chatting through some questions and trying to help get to know you better and really understand the relationship between the community and our police officers here in Prince William County, probably specifically the Haymarket side of things where we are.
Yep, for sure.
So go ahead and just tell us a little bit about yourself, how you ended up here, and
Well,
all
I
that.
want to start first of all by thanking you guys for having me on. This is an honor to be able to get out and to meet your congregation. It's a beautiful church. It's my first time being here, and it's really a pleasure to be here. And then the other thing that I'm going to say, and I know not everyone is watching this live, but the weather is getting a little nasty outside tonight. So we want to, if people are listening live, my recommendation to you is if you don't have to go out tonight, don't.
Yes.
Stay in and be safe. So, I came here from Washington, D.C. I started as a police officer in 1989, spent 31 years on the police department in Washington, D.C. The last 4 of those years, I was the chief of police in Washington, D.C. So it gave me a lot of experience in policing. When you're up in Washington, D.C., things can happen a mile a minute. And when I was getting near the end of my career, one of the things I came to realize very quickly was that I really, really enjoyed this work.
Yeah.
And I wanted to continue to do it. So when the job opened up in Prince William County, I said, well, there's a great opportunity. This is a place, I'm familiar with this region. And what really sold it for me is when I came down here, I went through a series of interviews and competed with some very talented folks. But when I came down here and I met the county executive, Chris Martino, at the time, and I was able to sit with the Board of County Supervisors, I felt like it was a really good fit. And I felt like I could really do some good things here. And so here I am. Happy to be here.
That's awesome. I'm glad you're here. I'm here as the county and also here in our building. So it's a real treat for me to get to just spend some time with you and just ask some questions. And
Excellent.
We'll see where it goes. And if you guys have questions who are watching, you can put it in the chat. We're kind of monitoring the chat, so keep it appropriate, keep it friendly. We don't want to block anybody or restrict anyone. We don't like doing that, but we will if we have to. So just keep it appropriate and ask
I'll
questions.
say this too, Zach. Sometimes there are hard questions for the police, and I don't have any problem answering the hard questions.
Yes,
so,
absolutely.
I don't want, obviously people need to be cordial and
right.
proper, but the same token, I don't have. If someone has a hard question about policing, I'm happy to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I will say there's always a slight delay between what we do here in the corner and what you guys see. So just give us a couple minutes. If your question's in there we haven't gotten to yet, we're going to try to get to every question, but we can't guarantee everything. So, like I said, just give us a few minutes, make sure everything stays appropriate in the chat, but ask the tough questions, like you're saying. So,
absolutely.
The first question I got here is, what are kind of some of the goals for 2022 of the Prince William County Police Department?
So, one of the things was pretty apparent when I took the job is, we're not diverse as a police department. And the county, as you know, is the 10th most diverse county in the country. One of the most, believe it's the most diverse county in the entire Commonwealth of Virginia. And one of the things that we need to do is we need to ensure that our police department reflects the community that we serve. And so that requires us to be diverse. And we've made huge strides over this past year. I was able this year to hire 2 classes of officers. Each of those classes are 40 plus officers. And they're the most diverse classes that we've had here in Prince William County.
Nice.
So we've made some really good strides in that. The other thing that I would like to do in this upcoming year is to develop we have a cadet program right now, but I want to kind of make that a little bit more attractive to our young people.
Yeah.
So to be a police officer, one of the requirements is that you're 21 years of age.
Okay.
You only need to be a high school graduate. If you have a college education, that's great, but not necessary. And so one of the things we want to do is have a cadet program that fills that gap. When somebody who has an interest in law enforcement between the ages of 18 and 21, we can bring them over, have them work with us at the police department. We have enough for them to do. And then potentially go out while they're doing that and get a degree, get an associate's degree, and then they can matriculate into becoming police officers.
Yeah.
So that cadet program is and the beauty of a cadet program is we'll be able to attract young people from the county to be police officers here in the county. So they'll be invested. And we had that in the district. I want to strengthen that cadet program here in Prince William County.
Yeah, so kind of raising people up who live here to help protect here as well.
Absolutely.
So
And there,
it makes sense.
what I think happens in some cases, you get a young person who's interested potentially in law enforcement, graduates from high school, and then they get into a job. 3 years later, they're so far into that job that they may not move back into the policing realm. So I think we lose some folks in that, and the cadet program would be a nice
yeah, for sure.
gap for that.
For sure, definitely. So I guess kind of going along with that question, raising people up from our own community, what are some methods that you find to work best for a healthy police community relationship?
It's about being honest with folks. The two things that I would say, two most important things are being honest and being responsive. We can't solve every problem out here in the community, but the one thing we need to do is if somebody reaches out, we need to get back to them. And that's one of the things that we demand at the Prince William County Police Department. One of the great things about this police department that I was able to adopt is that they have an excellent reputation. They began in 1970, a little bit over 50 years old, and they built it on a very strong foundation in that they hired people since the very beginning. The founders of the agency hired people who had two qualities: people that were honest and people who had integrity.
Yeah.
And when you have that type of folks working for you, you're going to be successful.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, definitely like the integrity and trustworthiness of someone goes a long way.
You have to have that in your community because, we talk about building trust in our communities. If your community doesn't trust you and you're a police officer, you are not going to be successful. So we work every day at that.
Yeah, for sure. Are there any events that you guys either put on or maybe partner with someone or, participate in to try and help build some more of that trust?
Absolutely. We have a community engagement team that's constantly out working with our young people, working with our seniors at community events all the time. One of the things we're very proud of, this past fall, we held the inaugural Community Day over at the McCourt County Complex in the plaza there. And what that was we brought in a lot of the community leaders, a lot of the services, and it was really about celebrating the diversity of Prince William County. And the turnout, we ended up having beautiful weather. It was in September, late September. We had beautiful weather. We had great attendance. We had live music. We had face painting for the kids. Fire department was there so the kids could climb on the trucks. We brought our horses. So that was the inaugural one. We intend to have it every year. And so this September, I know it's a little ways off, but put it on your calendar.
Yeah.
Like to see folks come out.
This September. It sounds like a great time.
It was really fun. And for me, it was really fun because I got to meet a lot of the folks in our community in a positive way.
Yeah, for sure. Yep. So my next question is just, I guess, getting more into like the protection side kind of thing. So if someone were ever to feel unsafe in their neighborhood, and maybe it's not like an emergency type of unsafe, are there recommendations that you would give? Like maybe, hey, you can do this that might help protect your house a little bit more, or, things along those lines.
Yeah, absolutely. We don't want to feel anyone to feel unsafe. If you're not feeling safe in your community, then we want to help in any way we can. One of the things that we do, we have a pretty significant social media audience. We're on Twitter, we're on Instagram. We're on LinkedIn, a number of different platforms. We're on Nextdoor, which is another app that we're on.
Yeah.
But oftentimes we'll put tips out there for various crimes. As somebody living in Prince William, and here's one of the things that, from my experience in Washington, D.C., I can say wholeheartedly, Prince William County is a very, very safe community across the board. We do have, obviously, we have incidents. We have close to 500,000 people here. But comparatively, this is a very, very safe community. But with all that being said, there is a potential you could be the victim of a package theft. I'm sure that has happened to some folks. You could be the victim of somebody breaking into your car, and nothing is more frustrating than going out to your vehicle, which you've spent a fair amount of money on, and having someone have stolen something out of your car or damaged your car in some way. And so what we say in that is, be vigilant. Video cameras today are very inexpensive. If you can get them on your property, those are very valuable to us. I would say, in policing in the last few years, that probably the video camera has been the number one thing that has assisted us in helping to close some crimes. And then for personal safety, when it gets dark, and I tell my wife and my daughters the same thing, don't walk alone, and if you're going out late at night, and that's anywhere. That's the world that unfortunately that we live in. Travel with someone if you can. If you're not traveling, someone, have your cell phone ready to call in the event that you need. And don't be afraid to go to a lighted area. If you're feeling uncomfortable, get into a lighted area.
Yeah, for sure.
Where people are.
Yeah, and we just had a question come in that I thought was a good one, going back to the hiring of the diversity, beefing up our diversity. Do you feel like that was more of like maybe in the hiring process where like the issue was occurring in the past, or was it like an application process, or I guess what are you doing differently now that's helping increase the diversity?
Answer to that question, all of the above. So what we did is we had the Police Executive Research Forum come in and take a look at our hiring practices. They actually did a report, which we have online if you want to look at it. And we had to make some modifications in the way that we, first of all, how we recruit folks, some of our recruiting, and then following up with some folks and making sure that, because when people show interest, we wanted to make sure that we followed up with them appropriately. We also, in this past year, we actually acquired a system where we can better track applicants and kind of track them through the process. And so that's really kind of moving us into where we probably should have been with regards to technology and following up with people and ensuring that if people are interested in policing in Prince William County and they have the qualities that we're looking for in a candidate, that we're able to bring them on board. And we do it, we try and do it as quickly as possible, because right now we're in a very, very competitive environment. Police agencies from across the Commonwealth are trying to hire. We're all trying to hire the same people.
Right.
And then, there's a part of that too is, salary and benefits, and there's a little bit of a competition going on. All that being said, we've made some significant modifications, and it's paying dividends right now for us, which is great.
Yeah, that was a great question. I'm not sure who submitted it, but
that was a great question.
It was a really good question. I guess kind of going back to the cameras on the doors and not feeling safe in your neighborhood. I know in my neighborhood, there's one person. It's amazing. They have, I guess, whatever camera above the garage, and it has a motion sensor light. So I'll go out and walk my dog at night, and it'll pick me up from the sidewalk and just pops on real bright. It'll scare me. I'm like, what am I doing wrong? But yeah, there's all sorts like Ring doorbells, and I think there's even cheaper options. Amazon seems to work wonders with
that stuff. Is very inexpensive nowadays. And if you're going to invest, like I said, we all do. We invest in a vehicle, and we invest in a home, and we invest in things like that. And part of that investment should be the camera.
Yeah.
It can serve as a deterrent. And unfortunately, if it doesn't serve as a deterrent and you're the victim, it really helps us to get the folks and make sure that they're held accountable.
Yeah, definitely.
Yep.
So I guess how can citizens or just the average Joe help our police? I know you're saying like getting the video helps a lot. Is there other avenues that maybe we can partner a little bit more, or things that you guys look for that maybe we don't know about when it comes to either figuring things out, or like that suspicious person walking around the neighborhood or whatever it is?
Yeah, and I'll go back to vigilance, and if you see something and it looks untoward, don't be afraid to call. I think sometimes now in today's environment, people are a little bit reluctant to call the police, and they're like, oh, I don't want someone to get in trouble. Our police officers are trained onto when we can intervene in a situation and when we don't, by way of the law. But the more information that we have makes us better able to service our community. So my advice to folks out there is if you see something and it just doesn't feel right, doesn't look right, give us a call, and we'll at least have the information. Yeah,
I know the non-emergency line, I feel like, is a resource that is overlooked a lot. I don't know if you feel the same way.
Yeah, I think that there's no penalty. If you feel like you're in some kind of danger, there's no penalty for calling 911.
Right.
So there's no downside to that. We're not going to say don't call, because if you feel like you're in danger, please call. And then, like you said, the non-emergency line for everything else. Yeah. If you got something minor but you want it addressed, call in. And the county, one of the things I've been very impressed with since I've been here, the county's very responsive to the concerns of the community.
They are. I've had to call it a few times myself, just from the nature of my job, and sometimes people tell us stuff and we have to report it up or whatever, just looking for advice too on what I should do next. I feel like the non-emergency line is a great And it's really easy to find. I just Google Prince William County Police non-emergency line and it comes right up.
I tell you that Google, you're absolutely right. Anything
Yeah.
you want, get in there. The number will pop up. Let us know. Like I said, there's no downside in it.
Yeah, for sure. Or insert your county here, I guess, if you're watching from a different county.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
there's all sorts of resources out there that like Google alone will help get you in touch with the right people. And then even I've called one non-emergency line who then forwarded me to the proper department or another county. Like they got me in touch with who I needed to be in touch with depending on the issue.
And that's what the non-emergency will do is they'll direct you
Right.
to the right department in the county that can help you.
Yeah, or at least getting a little bit of advice too helps, like if I did this, Yeah, so the next question I have, and I think we have a question coming in, but I'll go ahead and ask this one real quick. Do our officers wear body cams, and do you find that to be a beneficial thing or more of like a hindrance for the officers?
They do wear body-worn cameras, and it's really kind of funny. I don't know how they were received here in Prince William County, but when the body-worn cameras first came out in policing, some police officers were reluctant to wear them. Now police officers, they don't want to work without them, because what it does is it gives a real-time record of how they've behaved. And so really, for police officers who are out there and they're doing the job right, it really it supports them. If somebody wants to make an allegation against them, we can go to the video and we can say, hey, here's what really happened.
Yeah.
And so the officers have grown accustomed to it. They like it. All of the uniformed patrol officers in Prince William County wear a body-worn camera. And if they're going to get into a situation, a call for a service or a situation that becomes adversarial, they'll automatically turn that camera on. I'm a huge proponent of the body-worn camera. I think it's a huge advance with regards to transparency in policing, and so it's been invaluable.
Yeah, I guess kind of shifting over to the protection of our officers side of it, do they wear any kind of like armor or protective gear just like on the regular, or is it only in certain circumstances, or how does all that work?
Oh, all of our police officers wear a vest that would protect them from a bullet. And that is, people don't realize that can be uncomfortable.
Right.
When you're wearing that vest for 10 or 12 hours, God bless the men and women of the agency who wear that thing every single day.
Yeah.
But like I said, unfortunately in today's society, it's necessary. And we also spend a significant amount of time training our officers on de-escalation techniques and those kinds of things to ensure that if they do get into a situation where somebody's combative, that the philosophy is that everybody comes out of that situation without being hurt or injured.
Yeah.
And the Prince William County Police Department, one of the things we did this past summer is we released our statistics. It's in our annual report, and you can get it online. We released our statistics on use of force. And if you look at the statistics on the use of force, the numbers, I don't have them off the top of my head, but in 2020, we had 8,600 or so arrests, and in less than 5% of those arrests did police officers have to use any force at all. So in the 95 percentile of situations where we make an arrest, we don't use any force. And in that 5%, using serious force it's less than 1%. So most of the force that police officers have to use is sometimes they have to use tactical takedowns. They have to take somebody to the ground, or sometimes they have to struggle with somebody to get them into handcuffs. But using serious use of force in Prince William County is very, very rare. And I attribute that to really the training that these officers get and the people who we hire that understand that last thing in the world we want to do is to get into a physical confrontation with folks.
Yeah, I think last thing you want to do is get in any kind of physical confrontation, just whoever, anywhere.
You would hope that's the case.
Right.
Here's what happens in policing. Sometimes we come across folks that are not in the right state of mind for various reasons. They could be under the influence. They could have a mental health issue. And sometimes, you're coming across people who are extremely dangerous. And those are the kind of the outliers that our officers have to always be mindful of and careful. And they ensure when they come across somebody like that who's going to be combative, that they have all the skills and all the tools to safely and respectfully take them into custody. Because one of the things people don't understand is that, maybe they do understand, is when we take this job, the first thing we do we raise our right hand to God and we swear that we're going to uphold the laws of the Commonwealth of Virginia.
Yeah.
And to do that, we have to unfortunately sometimes take people into custody. But if we do it, we want to make sure it's done safely and respectfully.
Yes, we had another great question come in, kind of going off of that topic when it comes to special needs kids. Is there extra training in that area, you know, maybe to either de-escalate the person, or, you know, if it has to get physical, like certain holds or whatever that is intended to not harm them?
Absolutely. You know, so there's as you know, mental health issues across all different age ranges is a significant problem, not only here in the state of Virginia, but across the country. And the first responders oftentimes to folks in crisis are police officers. So we do what's called crisis intervention training. For just about half of our officers have been trained in crisis intervention training. So there's always somebody out on the street who has those skills. So if they come across somebody who's in crisis, we ensure that, and what they're taught those de-escalation skills for somebody in crisis or somebody with a mental health issue. Because some folks who have mental health issues are predisposed to certain behavior, and we want the police officer to be able to recognize that, understand that this is a person in crisis, and this is not necessarily somebody who's a violent offender who's trying to hurt somebody. So, and then, you know, going back to the kids, we do everything we possibly can to ensure, when we're dealing with young people, to ensure that they're not injured when they come into contact with the police. The times that it becomes challenging again is when you have the substance abuse or something like that's involved, or a mental health issue. Yeah,
for sure. And I'll say, I mean, we have officers on details here all the time, whether it be, you know, Sundays or with our high schoolers and middle schoolers during the week. And they're always phenomenal. You know, they come in, smiles on faces, and, you know, we try our best to make it an enjoyable experience too, you know, but at the same time, I mean, there's been some situations sometimes where a police officer kind of steps in and it's always ended well. You know, it's always been de-escalated, or nothing too crazy, you know.
But that you know, that's the reputation our officers have in Prince William County, and really kind of hats off to them. The other thing I got to tell you this, Zach, is that since I've been here in the county, the way that the community treats our police officers is really, they treat our police officers very well. Oftentimes they're bringing, you know, food and things on the holidays. They're bringing it to the district station. You know, they give them, they'll bring coffee and those kinds of things. You know, one of the stories that I tell everyone is you know, from time to time I'll go and grab a Dunkin' Donuts coffee. I know you can appreciate that, being from Connecticut.
We have our person behind the scenes, Jen, helping us out with questions.
Jen, I know Jen's from Connecticut, and that's a kind of a Northeast thing, is Dunkin' Donuts. But anyways, a couple times I was in the Dunkin' Donuts drive-through, and either the person in the car in front of me paid for my coffee without it. You know, when I get up to the window, it's like they paid for your coffee. So I couldn't catch him and say, no, you don't have to do that. But it's just those little small kindnesses that people in this community do for our officers that's really appreciated. Yeah,
for sure. And I think especially, you know, in a job of service that you guys do, that probably feels good.
Oh my God.
Helps you keep going.
And you know, when we went through some of the things that we went through after the murder of George Floyd, and there was a lot of, you know, a lot of anger around policing in our country, those small instances of generosity and kindness mean the world to the police. It meant the world to me. So it's really cool to see that here in the county. For sure.
I mean, you'd be amazed at how quickly like a day can be turned around. You know, like if you're having a terrible day and it's just like, hey, your coffee's been taken care of. You know, like it can be a big deal a lot of times. So kind of, I guess, shifting gears a little bit, someone asked a question about kind of what is being done about panhandling, or I really don't know too much about it other than what it is and people do it. So
yeah, well, you know, you got to think about what you get to the bottom. What is putting somebody in circumstance where they got to go out there and panhandle? They're probably in a you know, not the best of situations. Right. They got to stand out in the street corner. On the same token, it is something where they can be, you know, the police can address that issue. We don't want anyone to get hurt. One of the reasons that they have, you know, laws around panhandling is not necessarily the fact that they're getting money, but the fact that it can be very dangerous to the panhandler.
Right.
And we don't want anyone to get hurt. So if you have a situation like that, call, and we will try to respectfully intervene and prevent it from occurring. We're not going to go out there, guns a-blazing
Right.
for a panhandler. But we are going to, we understand that it can be dangerous, and we'll address it.
Yeah, definitely. My next question is just kind of from like a neighborhood standpoint, or more of a community, I guess. If someone were to have an idea for like, hey, there should be a crosswalk here, or like, why is there no traffic light? Something like that. Is that like a police issue, or how does something like that, like an idea, get brought up to the right people for something like that?
And I can't tell you how many times that we get that question in policing.
Yeah.
It's a great question. And so if you're interested in any type of a traffic calming device in your community, whether it be a red light, a stop sign, or even speed bumps in your neighborhood, that you can go online, reach out to the Department of Transportation.
Okay.
Those things cost money
Right.
to install, so the government has to be cognizant, and we can't put them everywhere. And so what they end up doing is they come out, they survey the area, they see if it meets certain criteria, and if it does, then they have to get approval from the state to put those kinds of things in. So it's a lengthy process.
Yeah.
But if you got, if it's really creating a problem in your community, and you have a group in the community who wants it, I would urge you to undertake that process.
Yeah, for sure. And keeping along the same lines of, I guess, communities and neighborhoods, how do you guys enforce like the smaller laws? And correct me if I'm wrong, you're the expert, but I think is it a Prince William County law that dogs have to be on leashes and owners have to pick up after them?
There are, and we have animal control officers who can deal with that issue. So as you know, we're actually opening a new shelter.
Yeah.
Coming up in the spring. It's very exciting. It's a beautiful building. It's open now, but it's going to be going to have a grand opening coming up. But with that being said, because I think you asked about communities. Probably, in my opinion, the better way to enforce those types of minor violations, for example, a dog that's, a dog owner who's not picking up after their dog. Let's use that as an example. If the homeowner association can put some kind of a penalty, a financial penalty on that, people who live in that community, that is probably going to be more effective than picking up the phone and calling the police, because, well, just think about we're talking close to 500,000 people.
Yeah.
I don't know how many dogs. I know I have 2.
Yeah.
So if you can do it through your homeowners association, and also you stigmatize the behavior. If someone in your community is doing that, collectively as a community, you say, hey, listen, this is just not right. We all got to live here together. And that can be impactful and change behavior as well.
Yeah, for sure. I think some small things that make it convenient to do. I've noticed communities that have like doggy bags above the trash cans.
Right.
So like you go out, you forget your dog bag.
Yep.
There's one available. Different things like that. And you bring those ideas up to your HOA, and
that thoughtfulness. Those communities that do that kind of thoughtfulness around the minor kind of nuisance type crimes are more successful than the ones who just kind of don't pay it any attention.
Yeah, for sure. In neighborhoods, how much do you guys turn things over to the HOA, or is there, like, what's the line there, I guess?
Well, we wouldn't really turn something over to the homeowners association, but what we may do is sit down with them. If we have a homeowners association, for example, and they're having a meeting and they want to hear from the police, what our officers will probably urge them to do is just like we discussed. Hey, you can call us every time you see somebody, doing this or that, but you're going to be more effective if you put some rules and regulations into the agreement.
Yeah, for sure. So a few questions left for you. And once again, if you guys have questions in the chat, then feel free to ask them. Always allow for the delay. But what are some characteristics you look for in new hires?
Really simple. People who are honest and people who have integrity. We can teach you everything else.
Yeah.
Let me just take a second and talk about policing. I became a police officer when I was 25 years old. Mm-hmm. Didn't necessarily know I was going to be a police officer. I did it for 31 years in the district, done it for another year out here in Prince William County. And one of the things as I reflect back on my career is I feel really good about the work that I did. So the work is really worthwhile. people, I don't know if people appreciate this, but it's a service profession.
Yeah.
Every single day when we go out, what we do, we spend the large majority of our time helping people. And I feel like I've done that throughout my career. And so when you get to the end of your career, you can reflect back and you can say that you did something worthwhile. And I don't think there's anything more important than that. We are hiring at Prince William County. So anybody who's out there and listening, we're hiring. If you want to be part of a really awesome organization, just go online and you can start the process. And the only thing we're looking for, like I said, is if you're an honest person, you're a person of integrity, and you have a service heart, we're looking for you.
Yeah. So where would they go on the website to maybe start that process?
Just like you said, if you Google Prince William County Police Department, one of the things we got out there is we're hiring. So
yeah.
you will see there's a link on there and you can start the process. And if you have those three characteristics, we're going to be very aggressive about coming after you because we want good people.
Yes, yes. So I guess moving it to kind of a more personal side of things, what is just something that you absolutely love about what you do?
You know, I'll go back to the interaction with the people. That has been, I can't tell you, you know, some people, like I talked about, you know, after George Floyd was murdered and some of the, you know, I guess what's the word for it? Some of the things that were happening with police, some of the things that were being said, you know, in 32 years of doing that, that was a very small window of time when people were saying negative things about the police. Almost every single day I come across people that are willing to work with the police. They're helping the police. The relationships you build. What I will say is I've been blessed in that in my career I've been able to walk amongst heroes. And when I say that, I'm not exaggerating. I read stories every single day about Prince William County police officers that are out there risking their own personal safety to ensure that this community is safe. So I get to spend time with those people, and that's the thing that I enjoy the most about the job, being with those people. Yeah,
that's awesome. And kind of, I guess, the flip side of that, I mean, you don't have to go into any kind of details, but what is something that you feel like is maybe one of the toughest parts of your job?
You spend a lot of time. One of the last night's a very good example. Is you're nervous and there's concern. There's always concern. You figure we have 700 men and women on the agency, and they're out there every day, and they can get themselves into some very, very dangerous situations. So you worry about that. You worry about some of the things that we've seen across the country with these active shooter situations. You know, that could happen here. You want to make sure that we are prepared, God forbid, that something like that happens in Prince William County, that we're able to effectively deal with it to ensure that people don't get hurt. You know, so those are the things that keep you up at night, making sure your people are safe, making sure your community is safe. And so sometimes you lose a little sleep, but I tell everybody sleep's overrated.
Yeah. And with that toughness of the job and the stressors that come with it, you know, I mean, it's not like your shift ends and you just stop thinking about it. You know, is there something that maybe you do to either encourage other officers or just people who are dealing with a lot of stress? Is there something that you do to help relieve yourself of that stress?
Well, I mean, I'm a little older than most of the police officers on the department. I do work out, but that's not really where I get the most stress relief. I think I get the most stress relief by spending time with my family. And I have a very big family, so I'm one of 8 children. I have close to 30 nieces and nephews, and my mom has, I believe, 15 great-grandchildren. So we're huge. And you know, from time to time throughout the year, I get to go and see my family. And you know, most of the time I have to travel up north, but I do have some that are close by. And really spending time with those folks is it's the best stress relief that I have. Seeing them, watching them grow, seeing their families, something I really enjoy doing.
Yeah. And is there any kind of like internal like counselors or something, like if a police officer needed to talk to somebody that they can go to within the organization?
I'm glad you brought that up. So we have a pretty extensive wellness program at the Prince William County Police Department. We have peer support, which is folks in the agency, in the event that somebody gets themselves in a situation they need to talk about something, their peers can meet with them, talk with them. We have employee assistance where we have counselors in the event that officers, and if they have a traumatic event and they want to talk about it. So the two things that they can do is they can go on their own, but we also have a system whereby if we start seeing behaviors that are indicative that somebody might be in a problem, having a problem, like somebody's starting to show up late for work, somebody looks tired, those kinds of things, somebody doesn't look right in their uniform as they normally did. Because throughout the course of a career, these things can happen.
Yeah.
We can actually direct that person over to go see our employee assistants to make sure that they get the help that they need. It's called an early intervention system, and it's been really good for us because there is, when you go to these things and you do it every single day as police officers do, there's a certain amount of trauma that attaches to that, and that can impact a human being. And they got to have resources to be able to help them, and part of it is you got to be healthy in body and mind. So you got to work out, but you also got to talk about these things.
Yeah, for sure. So what made you want to become a police officer in the first place? I think you said you started at 25.
I did.
What was kind of that shove into it?
Well, my story is not one of those great stories of I always wanted to be a police officer. I did have some family that was in policing, some uncles. But what happened with me is I got my undergraduate degree up in New England, and my degree was in political science.
Yeah.
And where do all good political science majors go? To Washington, D.C. Right? So I came to Washington, D.C., and I was looking for a job up on Capitol Hill, and I saw an ad in the paper for police officers. And it was paying a lot more than they were paying on the Hill, so here I am. But I tell that, it's really, to me, I tell that story to young people, and the reason I tell young people is, when you're 25 years old, 25 years old, you don't necessarily know what you want to do with your life.
Right.
But if if you're lucky, you will fall into something, and I think if you work really hard at it, you can be successful.
Yeah.
So, if I could do it, anybody can do it.
Yeah. So this next question maybe came from me watching too many TikTok videos. I'll just be honest about it. But how does a citizen's arrest work? Like, if you were to catch someone committing a crime, is that even the best option, or what is that all about?
I would recommend not to do it. Okay, and I know there's going to be folks out there that are going to do it anyways.
Right.
And the reason I say that is because it's dangerous, and not all of our citizens are wearing bulletproof vests like our police officers. They don't have the tools to do this, and they haven't had the training. Excuse me. With that being said, if you do see something, one of the great things about the Commonwealth is if you see something and you believe it's illegal and somebody needs to be held accountable, you can go to a magistrate, and the magistrates are available both sides of the county. We have one over at our Garfield station on the east end, and we have one at the ADC, the Adult Detention Center, available 24 hours a day. You go down there and you can actually swear out a warrant, and then you can ensure that the police go out and make the arrest. And that way, nobody gets hurt.
Right.
So that's the way we would like to see
things
happen. And if you really want to be involved in arresting people, I'll go back to what I said earlier. We are hiring. And
yes.
we would be happy to have you, and we can train you and get you a vest and make sure that
you do it in the safest way possible.
Exactly.
I feel like the most legal way possible too, because I've also read, and I don't know if this is true or not necessarily, but if you attempt to like physically restrain someone for a citizen's arrest and it's inaccurate, like they broke no laws, that person can then turn around and sue you.
Oh, absolutely. There's definitely, you're putting yourself in a position of where you can be held civilly liable for that kind of thing. And so really the best thing that somebody in the community can do is when they see a crime occurring is be a good witness.
Right.
Don't put yourself in jeopardy, but if you see if a vehicle's involved, if you can write down the tag, if you look at the person, try and get a really good description of the person. And in today's world with the technology that we have, we can sooner or later usually catch up to that person that's involved.
Yeah, for sure. And then my last question of the night before we end the stream is, do you just have any general advice just for people watching, maybe something that you feel like has really helped you throughout your life, just anything kind of general.
Well, I said this a little bit earlier, and I'll repeat it. The best motivator that I have seen for police officers is to hear a thank you. And people who are watching, and I know you're inclined to do this, and some of you do this already, if you see a police officer out there and if you say thank you to what they're doing, you're going to really make their day. So
yeah,
that's my advice.
Yeah, for sure. I once saw someone created an app called Thankless, and it's for people who are in thankless jobs. And they can open this app and get random thank yous.
Oh yeah, that's
but,
a nice
I mean,
idea.
that's probably not the direction you want to go. But it just goes to show that there are some jobs out there that are thankless jobs, but man, it can really help keep you moving. You know, I feel like especially in your guys' line of work, really help keep moving you forward and to keep doing your day to day and to, you know, continue to better yourself just for someone to come in and just thank you for what you're doing.
Best thing you do for a police officer is say thank you, because they're happy to do this stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Awesome. Well, that is all the time that we have for you guys. Thanks for being here with us, Chief. It was a great time.
Thank you, Zach.
Coming out in the snow and everything. So
my pleasure. Thank you very much.
Yes, and thank you guys for tuning in and watching. And yeah, if you want this video and you can't find it, you can always send me an email. It's real simple. It's just Zach, Z-A-C, at parkvalleychurch.com. You can send me an email. We can make sure you get the video. You can rewatch it. But yeah, that's all I have. And I think that's all we got for tonight. But thank you guys so much for watching. We'll have to catch you next time.